Well, I think that Playboy very clearly, Playboy the brand is in a time of transition. Uh, we started simply as a single title magazine. Uh, the magazine remains the heart and soul of the public of the company, but increasingly it's not the most important part of the company. Increasingly, really, we're in the licensing business, and that means a variety of products, both male and female, hugely popular. Uh, I just learned yesterday that we are the #3 most popular fragrance in Europe. Uh, I know that Playboy is a tremendously popular brand in China, in men's clothing. Uh, that is our future, I think. There is no other men's lifestyle brand that is more popular or more universally known, as you pointed out, around the world. So I think that is the real future of the company, but gaming becomes a major part of that and fits very naturally with the lifestyle.
The US has been going through a lot of soul searching in the last decade. We started with that terrible tragedy of 9/11, then we had the Bush years, two wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, the GFC. They just seem to keep coming one after the other. The collapse of the US dollar, the debt ceiling crisis, and even the great hope of Barack Obama seems to have lost its lustre somewhat in the last few years. You've spent a lot of time watching the US and watching the US society. What do you think is going to happen to the US in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Well, I think we need to more seriously rethink the very nature of our relationship with the world. We can't continue to police the world, and we should not be continuing to police the world. Um, I think sometimes we do more harm. We are do-gooders by our very nature. We're a Puritan people, and we're do-gooders, and we do it for the best possible reasons in most cases, but it isn't always seen as that. And sometimes we do more harm than good. As far as I'm concerned, the last moral war that America was involved in is World War II. The rest was political foolishness. And I think we need to start taking care of business in a more serious way at home.
Do you think that China could ever take over from the US as the world superpower in years to come?
I think it's possible. I think that it depends on what we're really talking about in terms of whether we're talking about economics or political power or uh, China by its nature, it clearly is growing leaps and bounds economically. It really doesn't have, certainly there's no real evidence that it has uh, any real political aspirations in terms of international uh, involvement. So I think that I don't. It's difficult to imagine them replacing America in terms of that kind of political leadership. But I think that we all live on one very small planet, and one of the things I think we really need to understand is that people have around the world have more in common than the things that separate us, and we need to learn to live together in rational ways and emphasize the things that really matter to all of us. And that means democracy and freedom and making a better life for everybody. Well, there's a danger in terms of that. Ray Bradbury, the classic science fiction writer who's done so much work for Playboy, did a piece called Sound of Thunder some years ago that talked about the butterfly effect, in which in a futuristic story, a butterfly is killed in a time travel story in the prehistoric times, and it changes everything over the years and centuries and millenniums that follow. You change one thing in your life, and you don't know what impact that may have. And my life I've been so blessed on so many levels, personal, professional, I am hesitant to change anything.
If there was just one thing that Hugh Hefner would like to be remembered for after you're gone one day, what would you like people to remember you for?
I'd like to be remembered as somebody who had some significant impact on the social sexual values of my time. I think I'm secure in that.
Mr. Hefner, thank you so much for having us here. It's been beautiful to be here at the mansion. Thank you for speaking to the readers of World Gaming magazine. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much for inviting us here.
A pleasure.